senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy, TV correspondent, CW6 News in San Diego, as well as One American News Network. And the website is thekdreport.com, and she is streaming live at periscope.com, facebook.com. Of course, Kimberly, normally I was on Facebook every once in a while. See your lovely face and hear your lovely voice and hear your outstanding report. Of course, I can hear it, but I can't see it. You know what I mean? How are you, man?
I'm fine. How about yourself, Chuck? I'm streaming live. I see people following me.
There it is. I pushed that timeline 6 times, and on the 7th time, there it is. Hey, lovely curls. My goodness, yes. Congratulations. That probably turned that way, and you had a bad golf day. And I'm not going to go any further. Talk about. And I got to tell you something. If President Trump, Ronald Reagan, he had a lot of humor, and he would say things that people would say, yeah, he sounds like a good old guy. And then Trump, they hate his tweets, but he really gets right down to things.
Yeah.
What he's saying about Iran.
Yeah.
We're really going to get into and basically anything you want to talk about, but here he is. Sanctuary city, sanctuary state. They love the immigrants. So.
Yeah, I mean, I hear there's a lot of TV pundits that are out there complaining, and a lot of people saying you can't send these people from the border. We need them to be able to go through the process, and it's up to the federal government to take care of them. But in 10 of the 11 largest cities in the country where most of these folks are heading, if not have already landed in those cities, they're actually by law sanctuary cities or states in that fact. So they should be thanking President Trump for sending the migrants because they welcome all in their sanctuary cities or states. That's the hilarious thing about all this. And most people, they forget about it's the R's and the D's not. But if you want to look at irony, this is ironic. He's giving them what they want and they're complaining. Yeah.
Boy, they just totally deny it. It's like they want you to believe that they never said we love it. We love sanctuary cities, and we're gonna, like for example, Los Angeles, and the newly elected governor of California goes all the way to Honduras. What can we do for you? Give us some examples. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, Gavin Newsom, here they are. Here they are. They're here waiting for your help now.
You don't even have to spend the taxpayers' money in those high gas prices.
Well, they don't have to pay for the airplane ticket, but once they get to California and once they get to these other cities, a lot of the cities and a lot of the information that I went through over the weekend is that they're complaining. They want their money. They want federal tax dollars to pay for this. They had no problem, of course, violating federal law to set up sanctuary cities. But now that it's going to turn around and they actually are going to have to pay money from their dwindling budgets, now all of a sudden they're looking out and saying, wait a minute, you need to make sure you send us money along with those migrants. And that's just not going to happen.
Kimberly, years ago, the gentleman that I used to have on quite frequently, George Putnam, had him on all the time, and he started out in LA and he went to Arizona. Great fighter when it comes to the immigration cause. He lives right on the border of Arizona. His name is Glenn Spencer.
Yep.
Ring a bell with you?
It does. I know him.
I bet it was about, if you recall, about 12 years ago, maybe 15, that he actually had a phony dirty phone. Okay, snuck it across the border and was going to deliver it to the state capitol, in Arizona or Tucson, wherever.
Yeah.
And got away with it completely. Now, this is what Newsom should do. He should go down there and just show us how hard it is to get back into the United States. Because I know he left, one day and came back the next.
Yeah. Well, I will next week, too, because I'm headed back to San Diego. So I'll be reporting live next week from the border down there in San Diego, which has been the first recipient of the airplane full of migrants are headed to my city, my proud city of San Diego. So it'll be quite an interesting report for sure. So tune in next week.
There's there's like 11 big destinations. And before I ask you that question, you're flying back to San Diego next week, all right?
Well, the end of this week, so.
All right. So let me ask you this, because I was talking to a guest and we brought up this subject about, how hard it is to fly from one city to another city in the United States compared to, coming in across the border.
Okay.
And you go through a lot of different checks and balances and what this stuff
Yeah.
before you can even fly from Washington, D.C. to San Diego.
Oh yeah, and I always get the special treatment because a while ago somebody played a really funny joke on me, and one of my friends in the military, and they gave me a backpack and I grabbed it and put it on an airplane, and it tested positive for some sort of like explosive thingy, and it was just a joke, ha ha ha. But anyways, every time I go through, they're like wiping my fingers, they're giving me the full questions, and so yeah, I know exactly how difficult it is to travel, even from East Coast to West Coast here. Yeah, I mean, if you're coming across the border lawfully, I mean, usually in San Diego, it's like a 2 to 3 hour wait. So, I mean, it's a line, and then, you've got to have all your papers in order or paid off the inspector, and then, you're into the United States. We have rules and laws, we have them for a reason. And right now, it just is simply easier and for a lot of people, and a lot of people with not so good intentions to cross the border illegally. So, and, cartels are taking note. Transnational terrorist organizations are taking note. They see a whole bunch of people headed off in that direction. Then they're going to okay, while Border Patrol's down there chasing down the mothers with their kids and all that, we're going to be busy crossing over here with, who knows what they've got, in their backpacks as they're crossing the border. And we're seeing those hidden cameras that a lot of these ranchers along the border actually place out on their properties, and we're seeing an increase in foot traffic. So there's definitely a lot going on out there.
Yeah. So the friend, he or she, you made up and forgiven them then, right?
Yeah,
Should I add almost convicted criminal Kimberly Dvorak on your bio? No, your bio is already too long.
Yeah, no, we'd be here until next week, yeah. McElenina.
Went on CNN. Do you think they got the questions or the answers? I mean, if they really wanted out again, CNN?
Well, I mean, what his job is to enforce the laws that are on the books. And for a lot of reporters, they want more. They want something else. They want, to say, look, oops, we got you. Look, you rounded up somebody you weren't supposed to. This is a person who is going to continue to enforce the laws on the books. And if that means that they're overflowing in their facilities in Laredo, in San Diego, wherever the case may be, they will be moving these migrants, and they are going to be detained. And as we saw a week and a half or so, I think we talked about this last week, that, the Ninth Circuit came in on Trump's side with this. I mean, these people cannot just come to this country and become part of the fabric, which they are all hoping will happen, that we'll just forget about them. But, the numbers are swelling to such a degree that where push comes to shove on this, and I really give the American people who live outside of the East Coast and the West Coast, in what we call the flyover country, these great Americans, they're looking at their pocketbooks and they're looking at what these people are getting, and they're putting their hands up. They're like, are you kidding me? I mean, our roads are terrible. It means I've got to put new tires on my car, every year maybe instead of every 2 years, because the roads are a mess. People are starting to figure out the financial burden upon this country. And anybody on any network that says otherwise, that there's no financial burden on this country, there is a tremendous burden on this country, especially in states like California, where it's a traditional navy blue state. So lawmakers, they're not really worried about sending any of the tax dollars that comes from California back to California, because they know it's a reliable blue state. So some of these voters are starting to wake up and go, wait a minute, I'm going to raise my hand here. That's not right. And so we'll start seeing some change on that. I think this is where you're going to start seeing that push comes to shove moment here.
Yeah, California, and I bring this and the census count. The more people you have, the more representation you get to have, and it's, you know, it's not like we don't have enough electoral votes already, but the more the merrier. And remember, if you sneak across the border and you get the free housing, the free education, and everything else, remember who gave it to you, and that's the Democrats. So be sure to vote Democrats. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's been working, right?
Yeah, and then and also we know in 2020 we have the census coming up. So, and those are also numbers that are taken, and they aren't asking if you're in the country legally or not, but those numbers are counted, and those can go towards redistricting, you know, parcels in a number of states, specifically the sanctuary city states. It will change the dynamics in that. It will say, you know, that possibly we need more. They're looking at adding more congressional seats. Well, if this is going to happen with all of these migrants coming, I mean, you know, you're right. Who's going to get those votes? And so that's something that, you know, our country, you know, it's changing dramatically, and it has for years, which is great. And we love all of our immigrants who come here lawfully, but they do so through the elected. You know, they come in, they fill out their paperwork, they hire an attorney, they get all their medical tests. They have, you know, they come through. It takes years for them to get through. And those, I mean, I say this all the time, they are the best citizens that this country has because they vote every election, they pay attention, and they know the rules, they know about the Constitution because they had to pass a test, unlike our kids in school anymore. So they actually do make the best citizens.
You know, I want to get to the top destinations here in a moment, and back on the census where it always helps. But two things, okay. Number one is the Washington Examiner released a report that a Department of Homeland Security pilot program using rapid DNA testing at the border just found that nearly a third of the adults bringing kids across the border weren't biologically related to the children in their custody.
Yep.
And I bring that up because whenever you hear the other side going, it's for the children.
Yep.
Don't put them in cages, like your president did, Obama. You know, but here it is. That's a big percentage. You know,
That is.
coming back, they have one here. The guy said, "Yeah, we saw this one little innocent kid about 5 or 6 times." You know, and that kind of woke them up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as a parent, I mean, again, this comes down to, you know, they say their kids are getting sick, starting to get warmer as they try to, you know, cross the desert into America as summer comes on here. You know, again, as a parent, you would never put your own child through something like that. In fact, we have an agency, Child Protective Services, that if you do something like that to your child, they promptly take your child from you. You're thrown in jail. You got to go through all kinds of probably psychotherapy. I don't know the exact process, but in the end, you know, they try to place your child with someone else in your family, but they take your child away for doing something like that. And we're supposed to trust that these people that cross the border with no paperwork, and we have no idea where they are, we have no idea where they came from, really, they speak a different language, we're going to believe whatever they tell us, you know, is their story. And, you know, and as we know, we're seeing some of these DNA results come back, and it's like a lot of us had suspected. So this is just proof that, you know, they're using children, and, you know, who in their right mind wants to welcome people into our country who's using children in that kind of manner? That's not American. That's not what we do here. But they're voters. They're potential voters, I guess.
And on the other side of the coin, Kimberly, you don't want to lock up the kids that don't belong to that guy in the cage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because then that would be another, you know, jump up and down. Look what the Republicans are doing.
Yeah. Well, when they talk about Republicans doing it, actually CNN, I think it was kind of an off-the-cuff remark. They didn't realize that they were making a valid point here. They were saying the last 10 years, this immigration stuff has kind of been mixed up. Now, of course, we know that for 8 of those 10 years, President Obama, who's a Democrat, was in office. So I gave him a lot of brownie points for making that statement. And I think that, you know, once they said it, they're like, oh, man, that's not what I meant to say. But occasionally they do come out with things like that, and it's absolutely true. Both parties are to blame on this. And the president continuing to say we need to build that wall, that's one of his core promises to his base. It's why he won in Pennsylvania. It's why he won in Wisconsin. It's why he won in blue or purple states, because the American people are tired of having to pay for people who are coming here. And another example, I guess, would be HUD. Over the weekend, Ben Carson, who's the director of HUD, obviously an African-American, brilliant doctor, he came out and said now that he's going to start enforcing the law when it comes to these people coming and getting housing subsidies, because the U.S. government is paying for millions of dollars worth of housing subsidies and making Americans wait on a list that's somewhere around 3.5 to 4 years to get into, housing subsidy projects so you can live. A lot of this money is going to illegal aliens, and and it's against the law. So, of course, now Ben will be taking a lot of flack from mainstream media saying he's a racist, even though he's African American. But what he's doing is what a lot of our, sheriffs and our border patrol across the country, they're enforcing the laws that are on the books. And if Congress wants to change this, please feel free. Come back back here to DC, work together, change all the laws, and then I guess we'll all be happy and move on to something else, like maybe rebuilding our country for a change.
Yeah, work together. I guess it was over the weekend where Nancy Pelosi, I believe, made this thing. We never said there was no crisis at the border.
Yeah.
And then all you had to do was go and take, 125 times where you have 125 different Democrats saying there's no crisis, there's no crisis, there are no crisis.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your latest report about, this is May, and just in April, the
110,000 roughly, yeah.
Apprehended about 110,000 at the border.
And that, Chuck, as I want everybody to bear on that number as well, that's how many they caught. You and I both know that there are a number that successfully make it across that they don't catch. So that's just what they caught.
Yeah. My hometown had maybe 3,000 plus people. 110,000, that's a whole bunch of hometowns for those folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about the big cities. There's, 1, 2, 3 that you really mentioned here.
Yeah.
The largest, right? New York, LA, Houston, and
San Francisco as well, yeah. A lot of that's usually in the news anyway. So they also welcome, and apparently also have judges that help you get out the back door if you're going to get arrested as well. These large cities, in the end, when it comes down to dollars and cents, and it's the reason why you're seeing a lot of conservative, let's say. Candace, I can't think of her last name now, but she's the African-American gal, has a huge following on Twitter and Facebook. She went to UCLA, she gave a speech, she became pretty popular, and she's on the war path saying that, look, we need to look after our citizens and not the illegal immigrants crossing the border. And you have platforms like Twitter suspending her service for making comments like that. And you have a lot of African-American people out there that are trying to make their way through life and get to that next level, and they're starting to see that they're losing some of the jobs. They're not first in line now to get some of these jobs. And I think as you start seeing politicians come to grips with this, and if they actually go into their districts and find out what a lot of the concerns are, it comes down to economics. It always does come down to economics. And we talk about single moms and single dads. It's really rough out there. Just to get by, you just want the best for your kid. And when you start seeing the dollars and cents that we're giving to these people, again, who are crossing in large numbers, mostly because they know that they're going to get here and they're not going to be deported. That's appealing for people like that. But eventually now you start seeing voters start going, wait a minute, this is not what we signed up for. It's hurting us. It's hurting our schools. It's hurting our health care. And, there's just no other way around it. And President Trump made, of course, it was a controversial statement, but I'm hoping that it's true that telling the migrants that came here illegally, don't get comfortable, because we will, after we're done hiring all of these people that we need to hire, we will be rounding you up and you will be going home. That was a controversial tweet, but he said he was going to enforce the law and these people would not be staying in this country as they think. Who knows what will happen, but yeah. Yeah.
Coming up on this break here, and I just want to mention, that they were moving the illegals from one port in Texas in Green Cross to Del Rio, Texas, overrun. Now, like you mentioned, 3 flights a week going to San Diego, and that's coming from the Rio Grande Valley.
Yep.
Last time I checked, that was in Texas.
Yep.
So everybody, especially California, you're playing your part. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about New Mexico. Apparently, these guys, the high-up guys, like the governor and things like that, they want to get some money back.
Funny.
Kimberly has that story. It is the KD Report, streaming live, periscope.com, facebook.com. CRN Wilder with Kimberly Dvorak and talking about her latest report. So, with the little time we have left here, I guess the state of New Mexico, what is it? The governor, one of the representatives?
Yeah. Well, New Mexico, of course, is one of the states where the governor said, we're taking our National Guard from the border down there because they don't have a really long border with Mexico, but they do have one. We're not going to have them down there. She was doing this to the cheers of her party against President Donald Trump. We're bringing them back. We don't care about that. We're just fine here in New Mexico. So she goes out on Saturday night and talking to her constituents, I guess, saying that, yeah, there have been some costs that the state and cities have had to incur because, the migrants have come up to New Mexico. And she recognized that, that there were a lot of churches and other humanitarian organizations that were really, collecting money and helping these situations. But this is what's really remarkable, what she says. She said, we're working with the Department of Homeland Security so that we can give funds to our region. We're also going to get funds for the government and the churches. We have, church and state, but that's fine. We'll give her a pass on that. She's demanding the federal government reimburse her state for having to take care of the people that she did not want to protect her border for in the first place. If that's not gumption, I don't know what is, because that is a pretty stunning report that she thinks that they're going to get this money back and they're going to demand Donald Trump send money back to New Mexico. This is an FYI for the Democrats who are out there. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen unless Congress appropriates, the House settles on it, and the president signs it into law. That's not going to happen. And these are the consequences of having this large number of migrants who the majority, by far the majority, don't speak English, do not have an education, and will be a net drain on our economy for years to come. There's not going to be any money for New Mexico if they take them in. So I think that the reality and the rubber is meeting the road here. Literally, they want their money. They're not going to get it. And they're starting to see that there is an expense to go along with, here we are, open borders. We want you all. Come, we will take care of you.
It's sort of like, you can't have it both ways. Here's an interesting thing for you here. The representative, can you pronounce the first name on that one?
No, I can't. Looks to me like they're from Oaxaca, though.
I'm wondering if it was Indian or Hispanic or what.
No, it looks like Oaxaca. I wasn't joking with Oaxaca. I've been there. It looks like one of the Oaxacan names. Mexico. It's one of the state. It's a state in Mexico. Yeah.
All right. But anyway, boy, I'm telling you, very, very interesting. And by the way, final note on Kimberly's report. Good news. The Pentagon is shifting $1.5 billion.
Yep.
The war has kind of ended here, so now they're going to use that for construction of 80 miles of wall.
Yeah, some of that's going to be in San Diego, which I'm anxious to go back and see where that's actually going to be as well. So I'll hopefully get some really great pictures and stuff so we can share all of that next week.
You ought to take some of that nice big rail, Diane Feinstein, husband, won the contract. Well,
Maybe hitchhiking.